So now that we've learned a lot in this course and we're confident that we can go ahead and start applying those things, it's time we learn how to work with film LUTs. Film LUTs are very popular in Hollywood, Bollywood, and the film industry, and a lot of other color artists and people use it because they have this very specialized look that they come with, and it just makes things very cinematic. So, how do we start working with film LUTs? I will be working with this footage. I wouldn't be able to provide you with this one because this is from my subscription. But you can go ahead and apply these settings to anything, honestly. It could be anything. So I've already worked on the white balance of my footage because we've covered that a lot of times in the course. So I did not feel like we have to go through this again. I'm going to turn on the white balance node. And here's my white balance. Again, as practice, I'm going to name this NR, noise reduction. And here I have my color space transform node. So the settings that I've applied over here is the same. Like if I go to effects and go to my color space transform settings, I've added the camera info in the first two areas and then Rec 709 and Gamma 2.4 in the last two areas. So we've already established that this converts our log footage into Rec 709, right? And I can already go ahead and start working on different parts of the footage using nodes and everything. And we've covered that in the previous lessons and the previous sections, but that is only working with Rec 709. I want to teach you how to work with film LUTs. So there is one change you need to make when you're working with film LUTs over here. They are applied in a very specific way. So the first part, input color space remains the same. You will put in the camera info. Input gamma remains the same. You will put in the camera info again. Output color space is going to stay the same. You're going to put Rec 709. But output gamma is where you're going to make the change. Instead of gamma 2.4, you're going to go ahead and select Cineon Film Log. This is for a very specific purpose. This is how you're going to apply the LUT to your footage. Otherwise, it is going to mess everything up. So, with these settings on, making sure I have Cineon Film Log in my output gamma, I'm going to come outside of the options. And again, in this method, in every single method of color grading, your log footage, you're going to convert it at the very last. That is never going to change. But one thing you're going to change is that you're going to bring this to the left and create another node. And I'm going to label it as LUT. This is where I'm going to apply my LUT. So here, my color space transform node is going to be applied on a separate node. And then this is going to go into the LUT node. These two are going to be the last two nodes of our color grading node tree. So with the LUT node selected, I'm going to go to the top left and I'm going to look for the LUTs option. Here it is. I'm going to click that. And here DaVinci Resolve gives you by default a lot of LUTs to work with for different cameras, Arri, Blackmagic, DJI, Sony, Samsung, Red, all kinds of famous cameras. But we're not going to use any of those. We're going to go to Film Looks. And I'm going to teach you how to work with the most famous Kodak LUT that is used worldwide, everywhere. Everybody loves it. That one is Rec 709 Kodak 2383 D55. There are three different versions of this. There is D60. This is more on the neutral side in terms of colors. There's D65. It's on the cooler side. But this is the most loved and the most famous LUT that is used by Hollywood filmmakers all over the world. Everybody uses it. That is, well acquainted with color grading and its process. So with this LUT, what I can do is I have to apply it to my LUT node. So I can double click on it, and now it is applied to my LUT node. Now I can go ahead and start making my changes. When I'm working with the Kodak LUT, the film LUT, I don't make a lot of contrast changes because see how it's already coming with so much contrast that I might actually have to take out some contrast, right? And you can go ahead repeat the same process that we did with this footage where we created the high contrast look or the faded contrast. But if I'm creating my high contrast look, I don't really play a lot with the contrast sliders too much because this LUT is famous for its high contrast look. So let's start ahead. Let's start going ahead and color grading it. I'm gonna first work on the overall lighting. So I see that my shadows are like, oops, sorry, my shadows are like really dark and a lot of information is kind of getting lost because this is a dimly lit scene. There's harsh lighting falling on their faces, but there's not a lot of other, um, supporting lights and everything. So I'm gonna go ahead and create better lighting using the offset wheel. I just want to bring everything up, and then I'm gonna bring down gain. That's gonna give me a much better look. So before it was like this, it was really dark, and now it looks like this, right? Already giving me that faded contrast look. So before it was like this, very dark, everything, cinematic and everything, but at the same time, it was also very high contrast. It's difficult on the eyes. And here I have this with basic lighting correction. All right, so you see how it's already starting to look like the movies and everything? We're gonna go ahead and create our own specific look. I don't really want to make any specific changes, honestly. I just want to work a little. I'm just gonna bring up a little bit of my gamma because I want the midtones to also stand out. This is how it looked before. This is how it looks after. And then bring down gain slightly because the highlights are very sharp and going out of, like, they're blown out. So here I have those settings. And then do you see that even though I've applied so many different settings to the offset, gain, and gamma, there's still a lot of contrast. So when I'm working with this node, sorry, when I'm working with this film LUT, I don't make drastic changes to the contrast. Usually, really depends on the footage too. But because this LUT gives me a lot of the contrast to begin with, so I'm gonna bring it slightly down, not too down, closer to 0.1, make it slightly darker. And I don't usually feel the need to use this, like, because there's already a lot of contrast, and now my footage is turning really bad. So I'm gonna go ahead and skip this. I just wanted to show it to you. Probably slightly bring it down, like up to 0.5, 0.05. So this is how it looked before, how it looks after, before, after. I'm already getting a really stylized look, right? I'm gonna work on the saturation. And I like that this footage has a lot of colors and everything. That way I can bring those up. So I'm gonna increase the overall colors, not specific ones, because there's a lot of colors over here. A lot of colors. Because if I try to bring this up, I'm gonna end up bringing these in the rug. And I don't want that, I just want this, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and bump up my saturation to, let's say, 75. Wow, it looks so cool, right? Um, and then I just want to desaturate the skin a little bit. So I can call it skin or hue versus hue, but I usually call it skin. I know previously I've called it hue versus saturation, sorry. I've called it hue versus saturation, but skin is better because I know exactly what I'm talking about at that point then. So I'm gonna go ahead and sample from their forehead. And see how the boy is slightly different in terms of his skin color than the girl. So this is why we have this range that we select, and then we widen it so that we have all other colors, all other kinds of skin tones and everything in our selection. That way we can control the skin color with one node, unless there's like drastic changes in the skin color. Even then we can, but this really does help us a lot. So I'm gonna click and bring this down. So see how it's working on both their skin colors? This is why I widen the selection. So I'm gonna bring it down to the second square, and it looks good. So this is how it looked before. This is how it looks after. I'm gonna zoom in and show you exactly what it's looking like. And I'm on the skin node, just making sure. So this is how it looked. It sort of looked a little bit oversaturated if you specifically look at the guy, but this is how it looks with the skin node turned on. And then I'm starting to get my film look right already. One other thing I want to teach you over here is this is a technique I taught you in one of the previous lessons where I told you hue versus hue changes the color. And this is going to come in very handy when you have to do shot matching, where let's say this was one shot and then you have another shot where you have to work on the skin and everything. And let's say they were in some other lighting, and let's say her skin color changed. So how do we make sure that the skin color remains the same, or at least closer to what it would look normally? Because we don't want her to look slightly reddish in one shot and then slightly like paler in the other. We want her to look almost the same, right? So I will, wherever I want to sample, like whichever shot I want to change the skin color for, I will go ahead and sample her skin color, widen the selection slightly, just so I have more space and I have more range to change the color. And then if I bring it down, see how our color changes, the guy's color also changes, and this is how it's gonna change. So let's say I want to change the guy's skin color. Well, the girl's skin color is also gonna change because of course they have similar skin tones. So let's say this is gonna make them slightly go towards reds. It's gonna make this difference, and then if you bring it down, it's gonna bring other colors into their skin. So this is also how I usually move. I usually move one box up or slightly down when I have to change skin colors, and that's where it keeps me within that range where they don't start looking like aliens. But now that we have all set up, I'm gonna create another node and come down and label this as look. And now I want to create certain things in my footage. For example, I want it to be more on the warmer side. Right now it is kind of on the warmer side, but more neutral. I don't want that. I want to change that. So with my offset, I can apply a warmer tone all over my footage like this. This is how it looks before. This is how it looks after. Starting to look really nice. I love the whole look that I'm getting with this. Again, going full screen, showing you. This is how it looked before. So you can also have this look. And this is how it looks after, right? Let's say I wanted to create a couple of other things. So let's say I call it look 2. That means that these are just flowing into one another, or I can just create them parallel. I apologize. I can go ahead and make them parallel like that. Call it look 2. And let's say I want a slightly cooler tone in my midtones. like this. So just to have like a more stylized, maybe it's gonna go more towards purples. So I can take it either way. I just want to add like a different color to my midtones. I'm just trying to show you exactly how the LUT works. So if I bring it towards the cooler side, that's how it's working. I want to bring it slightly towards blue. Let's see if that has any effect. So I'm gonna go full screen and see this is how it was slightly on the warmer and a little bit on the greener yellow side. But now I've added a whole other color. Again, I'm going to show you again because I really want you to understand the difference. The look 2 node, this is how it looked before when I turn it off with only one look node, the first look node. And this is how it looks after when I turn on the second look node, right? So it looks much more warm and fuzzy, and I really like how this is turning out to be. And the reason to show you all of this is because I want you to understand how powerful this LUT is. This is like super powerful. And I already have my look. I don't think I need to do anything else with this footage. Um I don't really think this just looks perfect right now. I don't think I need to do anything else. I like the look and everything. If I want to create anything else, like I can work on the faded contrast, or I can work with, for example, the high contrast. I already have the high contrast, right? In the next few lessons, I'm going to teach you exactly how to work with um, FX and everything once we're done doing skin tones and everything. So I hope you understand how powerful the Kodak LUT is. And then you can go ahead, for example, you can go ahead and apply this LUT to anything else as well. Like you can apply it with the Fujifilm LUT. You can do another Kodak. I really haven't used these. I don't use these. I use the Rec 709 because this is the one that I really want to use. These three, the Rec 709 ones. And then I work with Fuji sometimes too as well, but my favorite is Kodak 238 3D55 because that is the best one that I can work with. That is the one that people love. Um, so I hope you understand the lesson and how powerful this one is. And if you have any other questions, we can start working on them. You can post them to me. Um, One other thing I want to teach you over here is like, for example, if I want to bring up, let's say, any specific color. So I hope you understand everything in this lesson. It's just the little bit of changes that we apply over here that were different. Otherwise, everything else was similar. I can go ahead and post it on my page. You can do the same if you have access to the subscription platform. Otherwise, you can go ahead and whichever stock footage you have, you can go ahead and start working on it. One other thing I want to teach you. So I'm going to bring down these notes just so it doesn't create a lot of confusion because I see how they were stretching visually and everything. I'm going to go ahead and bring them here, these down, bring these down. And I want to show you how to work with, I'm going to show you how I would create my own look and everything, right? So I'm going to go ahead and make another contrast node. I'm going to call it girl's face. I just want to go ahead and make certain highlights and everything, right? So I'm bringing these down because I don't want you to be super confused when the nodes are running parallel and then into each other and everything. So I want to see if the camera will be able to follow her face. I want to create that contrast. So I'm going to create that oval. It's smaller. Slightly rotated according to her face. Increase the softness. Then we'll see if it's able to track. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring these down. because I don't want you to be confused. With the girl's face, with the girl's face selected, I'm gonna go ahead, create another oval over here, increase the softness, check my settings. The fade looks good, like the transition from inside to out. And then I'm gonna go ahead and work on creating more contrast on her face. I just want it to really stand out. So for example, it was like this before, it is like this now. And I also want to track it because the camera is moving. So let's see if this movement is slight enough for the window to track it. Oh yes, hopefully. Yep, perfect. The girl's face over here. And then I'm going to create a parallel node. These are just the extra parts that I'm teaching you if you really want to do that. All right. So I'm going to call this, let's say, girl's face 1, so that I understand which part I'm talking about. Girl's face 2. And then I'm only showing you one example. I'm not going to do the guy's face because that's going to be a lot of nodes and everything. I'm just trying to show you how things can work with the film LUT. So I'm giving you one example. I just don't want to make things too complex for you. You can go ahead and practice them together. And then if you have any questions, you can let me know. I would be more than happy to answer all of your questions because I really do want you to succeed with color grading and become professional color artists. So increase this softness. And then I'm slightly going to maybe just work on the highlight slider, bring it up slightly, not too much. See? So that's a subtle change. And of course, track it because the camera is moving. Okay. So now I have the girl's face selected. This is how it will look. So now I have the girl's face selected. This is how it would look without the changes that I made. This is just a general contrast on all of the other changes that I made. And this is how it will look after. So see how it's looking much more cinematic and everything. And you can do the same thing. You can go ahead and make the same changes and everything. And even when it comes to look 1 and look 2, for example, let's talk about these. So this is how it was looking before. This is how it looked before when I had only the the LUT applied. But this is how it looks when I create the changes. So you can go ahead and start making those changes and everything slightly. You can also make drastic changes if you want, but I would just suggest try to stick around. Like, don't make so many changes that it looks completely unnatural. Just try to stay within the natural areas and everything, and keep an eye on your vector scope and your parade and everything, because I see my yellow is getting closer to this point but not going beyond it, so that's a good part. So I mean, for example, if I go to the look node and I'm like, okay, well, you know what, I want it to be more towards purple like that, but just so it's pleasing to the eyes, it shouldn't. Now it's starting to look hideous, right? It's starting to go into that territory where it's going to start looking really. Alright, so in the previous lesson, we learned how to work with the Kodak LUT. Now I want to show you using the same footage for better understanding, of course. If I change the footage, it's just going to be a little bit more complex to grasp the concept, but I want to show you how I would create a look with only Rec 709. not any LUTs or anything. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete everything else. Just keep the white balance and the CST node because those are the ones that I need. Go up to CST, have everything the same instead of output gamma because I'm gonna go and convert it to gamma 2.4. And now I have my complete Reg 709, like from log to Reg 709, complete conversion. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna try to create a more stylized look using only Rec 709, no LUTs, no nothing. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead, create an exposure node or lighting node, and I'm gonna fix the lighting. For example, again, bring up the offset overall because I want to light up the scene overall. Bring down a little bit of the areas that are highlights because that is kind of blowing out, sort of blowing out if I don't do that. So this is how it looks before, this is how it looks after. I also want to bring up my midtones. Now I think I have a much better lighting. Slightly bring down. Okay. So now I think I have a much better lighting and basic lighting correction. I'm going to go ahead and node for contrast. And I'm going to use the contrast lighters to slightly bring it down. Not too much because there's already so many dark areas. And if I bring down the contrast lighter too much because there's a lot of harsh lighting in the set, like they're sitting in direct light and everything, that is going to cause my highlights to be blown out and I don't want that. So bring down the pivot slider slightly so I make slightly darker. This is how it looks before and this is how it looks after. And probably very slightly I'm gonna bring down the shadows in my log deals very slightly, like 3.04. So this is how it looks without it and this is how it looks with it. Very slight change. All right. I can do the same things like with the power windows and everything, but I'm not going to do that over here because I taught that to you in the previous lesson. Next thing I'm going to do is work with saturation. So I usually I do my basic correction over here, for example, and then I bring the saturation and everything else from here onwards. I make like 3 layers of notes. And then in the very last, I have my conversion to Rec 709. That's what I usually do, but that's totally up to you. That just makes my thing very organized. So saturation, same thing. I'm going to bump it up to maybe 80. Let's see how that goes. Looks pretty good. But at the same time, I need to make some changes to the skin, like we discussed. So I'm going to create another node, call it skin, and then using my hue versus saturation curve, I will sample forehead for the skin color. Go ahead, widen the selection, and then bring down their skin. Because if I go any further beyond this point, then it's going to start looking gray. It looks very weird. You're oversaturated. So here starts to look a bit oversaturated. I will bring it maybe 1.5 down or 2 points max. Because I also have to pay attention to the girl. This guy has a lot more red in his complexion. She doesn't. So if I use him as a point, I will have to bring it further down. And then she's going to grow very pale. So I have to have like a midpoint. This is what happens when you have different people of different skin colors and everything. So go ahead and let's see. So this is how their skin looked without any changes, like when they were slightly oversaturated, especially the guy. And this is how it looks when I change it. So going ahead, and I don't like the overall cool undertones of the video. So I'm gonna go ahead and maybe create a look node. And I want to go ahead and create a warmer look, but because it looks pretty warm, right? You have to understand the kind of direction that the video is taking. It's daylight, they're together, they're probably romantically involved. So all of that points towards a warmer footage for me, warmer look. So using the offset with the look node selected, I'm going to bring it slightly towards the warmer side like this. And that's also adding color to our subject skin colors if you check. So this is how they look before, this is how they look now. So they're sort of looking more saturated than I would like them to be. So I'll go back to the skin node and then I'll simply just bring it down even. So if I didn't have any skin settings on, this is how they would look with this look. And this is how they look now, right? But now I feel like that there's like a little bit of greenish undertones and everything, right? So it's fine. It's just a preference, I think. And I see that overall. Like, I see that I do see colors in the shadows as well. So I will take that out once I'm done with all of the look creation. But there's one thing I want to teach you. This is very important. So let's say I'm seeing like slightly green undertones and everything. And if I go to the color bars and I bring down green, Yes, that works. And that's making my video look much better, correct? Because now I have the kind of look that I have been, aiming to get. But let's say I wanted to, for example, I'm going to go back and reverse the setting. So it was 24. And when I bring it down, it becomes 23. So what do I do? I don't want it to be a whole point that's taken outside of my look node. What do I do? Is there any way that I can work on this? Is there a way that I can control this? Luckily, yes, there is. So I will teach you exactly how to do that. And to do that, first of all, I'm going to press Command Z, go back to that previous setting that I was in. And with the look node selected, I will go up to color. And over here, first of all, check printer light hotkeys. This is very important. Here we have different settings and you can probably memorize them. I haven't, but if you press certain buttons on your keyboard, it is gonna take out certain colors. So this is full printer light, which means that it is, if I press yellow minus, it's gonna take one full point of yellow outside of my video like this. See how it looks much better? But I don't want that. I want half of the green to be taken out. Sorry, I'll go up to color, half printer light, and then green minus. That's gonna take half a point of green outside of my footage, like this. Do you see the difference? This is how it was before. Look at the girl's face. Look very closely. This is a very subtle change. And then this is how it looks now. Before, after. I'm gonna revert to the before settings. I just wanna see. Cause like when I brought the colors closer to yellow and everything over here, because of course like there's undertones of yellow over here, that's why we have this overcast. So I'm gonna go to color, and then we also have the option of order points being taken out or added to your video. Just like I took out half of green, I can add half of green, and now my video looks hideous. But I was just giving you the example. So these are some of the things that you can do to take out colors outside of your video. If I take out master, it's just going to take out one whole point. Over here, you'll see all of the points are going to get taken out. So I'm going to press Command Shift Z to go to the previous settings. So all of them are 1 point down. And then now I've reverted to the previous settings because I want to take out one specific color. So I want to take out probably yellow or green, probably yellow. So I'm going to take out one full point of yellow, and now it's looking better. And maybe half point of green. Yep, now it looks much better. So now I have these settings applied, and usually what I do is I will apply it to another node because now I don't remember exactly, what I did. And if I'm way down in my node tree and I've taken so many steps, I don't want to spend so much time pressing Command Z, coming back to that point. So it's easier to split them into parallel nodes, or if you want nodes that are straight in a linear manner, just group them and make them a compound node and call the entire thing look. But this is how it looked before, and this is how it looks after. Going ahead, full screen. Without the look, this is how it looked before, and this is how it looks after. So I'm getting my stylized look and everything, right? So after this point, I usually apply a couple of other effects on my video, but we're gonna get into that later on because that's not the point right now, and you will understand all of the things that I'm talking about. So I hope you understand the lesson, and if you have any questions, please let me know. I will be more than happy to answer them.